aid has inadvertently contributed to the dysfunctionality of many states, and I mean by states, I mean by governments across the African continent, and their ability to actually deliver. I think the point of aid that tends to be missed in the big discourse is that these open-ended commitments are not satisfactory. Yes, there have been other interventions in the past of aid interventions, whether it's in India, whether it's in Marshall Plan or Ireland. But the difference between those type of interventions is that they tended to be relatively short, sharp, and finite. And I think it's important for us to start to have the discussion about exits from the aid model, if you know, for all things being considered, because ultimately we're talking about incentives here. We need to get to a situation on how do we incentivize African governments to do the right thing. Many places, I'll give Zambia as an example again, but many African countries, public goods such as education, healthcare, infrastructure, security are actually all provided by foreigners, foreign governments, foreign NGOs. In the book, I talk about a friend of mine who did her doctorate here in SAIS, Johns Hopkins, was a lawyer at Cornell before, went back to Zambia, spent 3 years working at the largest HIV organization in Zambia, quit about a month ago. I really encouraged her to stay in the health sector. She quit out of frustration. She said, basically, Dambisa, your government does not care about its people. Effectively, the HIV programs and the healthcare sector in Zambia is being run by American donations and the American NGO community. That is not sustainable, and it's not good enough for us to sit out here and say, as I've been told many times, yes, it's $50 billion of aid going to Africa every year, but you know what? 2 million Africans are alive now on HIV drugs. Those numbers do not add up. That is not a good return on the investment, and it's even more absurd that a system can allow governments to completely abdicate their responsibilities on what are effectively public goods. A quip from an African friend of mine was, you know what, why do we even waste our time voting in a democratic process? What we should be doing is actually having elections on whether we think the Gates Foundation can provide better health care than Bono's organization or whatever. And I mean, it sounds quite flippant, but I think it goes to the heart of the matter. There are public goods, there's an expectation, and there should be an expectation by Africans on that their governments do deliver, or at a minimum, provide us as Africans, but as members of the global community. We want to hear from African leaders what their plan is. With populations, over 60% of the population under the age of 24, they have to have a plan. They have to articulate to the world what exactly their strategy is, and it's not good enough for them to sit back. And I actually would argue that the reason why they take a step back is because somebody else, whether it is the celebrities, whether it's the IMF or World Bank or whoever, is sitting down and writing their policy plan for them and articulating the African agenda towards 2050.